into the cells. The release of oxygen out of your blood cells. There is a trigger. There is this thing that controls it. And that is CO2. That's right, CO2. You see, you probably thought CO2 was a waste product and it's not needed, as you're breathing out all the CO2. And by the way, when you're breathing out, an average person is probably breathing out, maybe 25 to 75% oxygen. So it's not all CO2. You're breathing a lot of oxygen out too, because it's not being absorbed. CO2 is the key for the releasing of O2. And it's called the Bohr effect, B-O-H-R effect. CO2 tells the body to release O2. And the way it works is that CO2 increases the acidity, makes things more acid, and then that loosens up the oxygen so it can then be released. Take a look at someone that is starving from oxygen, someone that is in a panic attack, right? What are they doing? They are hyperventilating. What happens when you hyperventilate is you're trying to get a lot of oxygen, right? But you're not getting a lot of CO2. What is the most common recommendation when someone is hyperventilating? Breathe in a paper bag. What does that do? That increases the CO2, allowing the oxygen then to go into the cells. So it might be a really good thing to actually buy an oximeter. You can usually get them as a kind of a pulse oximeter, checks your pulse rate and oxygen saturation. And normally it should be between 95 and 99. Okay, and we're looking at how much oxygen is saturated in your blood. And it's a pretty cool test, and it'll kind of give you a reading of what's going on. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how to increase the oxygen and raise it up to 99 or even 100. And you can do this test on yourself. At first, when you think about it, it's very counterintuitive. We're going to increase our CO2 to increase our oxygen. Sounds weird, but it really works. Now, a couple ways that you can increase more CO2. Breathe through your nose versus breathing through your mouth. Yeah, that's right. Breathing through your nose gives you more oxygen. You would think when you're sleeping that it would restrict the air, which it does, and it would restrict the oxygen, but it doesn't. You'll have a much better sleep if you breathe through your nose. Now, this is not all about just increasing your CO2 100%. We need a balance of oxygen and CO2. Okay, all we're trying to do is balance it. When we're under stress, our breathing changes and we no longer balance the CO2 with the O2. We actually are getting more oxygen and not enough CO2 when we're under stress. And that's just probably counterintuitive when you think about it, but the solution is to increase more CO2. And you can do that by simple breathing as well, like slowing down your breath, okay? And balancing out the inhalation with the exhalation. There was one study, which I'll put down below, that they added more CO2 to this oxygen, and they gave this mixture of air to these group of people who all had hypoxia. That's a condition where you have lack of oxygen, right? And they all increased their oxygen saturation, which is really interesting. So you'll have to prove this to yourself to see if it's true, but you will find it is true. But by increasing your CO2, you can greatly help stress, anxiety disorders, panic attacks. You can decrease inflammation. You can resolve many times depression. You can increase your endurance with exercise. You can decrease symptoms of respiratory problems like COPD or weaknesses within the lungs from past injury. You'll even be able to hold your breath longer. So how do we do this? Well, the first thing you need to do is to do a test to determine something, to determine your carbon dioxide, CO2 tolerance, how well your body is able to tolerate CO2. And it's a very simple test, okay? And I recommend you do it laying down on your back on the floor, okay? All you need is some type of timing mechanism, some type of watch, and because you're going to just record the timing. So to do this, you're going to nose breathe, just only breathe through your nose. And you're just going to inhale and exhale 3 times with a timing of 3 seconds. So 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out, 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out, and just do that 3 times. Now, on the fourth time, you're going to expand your lungs and breathe in as much as you can. So that fourth inhalation is a very large inhalation. Now, as you time this next phase, you're going to be timing the slow, continuous exhalation of air from that inhalation. And so you're not going to want to hold your breath. You're not going to want to pause. You just want to slowly let the air out, and you're going to time it, right? And see how long that takes, but it has to be slow and continuous. And so you're going to record the time until you run out of air. Okay, so now that you do that, okay, if it's 20 seconds or less, you're in poor condition as far as your respiratory system, your ability to tolerate CO2, your stress is probably pretty bad. You probably have a low tolerance to stress. You probably have anxiety. You probably can't exercise for a long time as well. You probably run out of gas. If you're between 20 seconds and 40 seconds, you're in the average group, okay? So not really great, not terrible, but right in the middle. If this exhalation is between 40 seconds and 60 seconds, you're above average, okay? Not really good, but you're definitely right in that intermediate area. You're definitely above average. Now, if that timing was between 60 and 80 seconds, you are considered advanced, okay? You have good stress tolerance. You have good endurance. You're in pretty good shape. You can handle stress pretty good. If you're over 80 seconds, you are in the category of elite, okay? This is like an elite athlete. You have excellent stress responses, excellent cardiovascular, great tolerance to CO2. So that is the goal, is to get you over 80. So what I want you to do right now is do this test and record your number in the comments down below, okay? I want to read the comments. I want to see results. I want to see where you're at. Now, the question is, how do we increase this tolerance to ultimately increase your ability to get oxygen in your cells? Because it's not just about oxygen, it's about the oxygen availability to the cells, which is dependent on the CO2. And again, we're just trying to balance the CO2 with the oxygen. So a couple things to do, okay? Start doing nose breathing. Keep your mouth shut when you sleep, right? And then even through the day, when you're driving, breathe through your nose. Another thing you can do is start breathing with emphasis on your diaphragm, like just focusing on breathing in through your stomach, not through your chest, okay? And you're going to slowly breathe in through your, pushing out your stomach, and then exhale slowly. So we're going to balance this. And I've talked about this technique to help you sleep as well. Start focusing on your sleep, making sure that your inhalation equals the exhalation. And that really helps you sleep. And now you know why, because it increases more oxygen, because it increases more CO2. And another thing you can do as a practice routine is do box breathing. It's called 4, 4, 4, and 4. So you're basically just going to breathe in for 4 seconds. You're going to then hold your breath for 4 seconds. And then you're going to exhale for 4 seconds. And then you're going to hold this exhalation for 4 seconds. And you're just going to practice this, okay? Longer and longer and longer to see if you can do it. So that is going to help you. So nose breathing, this box breathing, diaphragm breathing, and also holding your breath. Now, of course, you probably want to do this supervised. So that way, if you pass out, it's not a problem. But you can just do this on a low level. I don't recommend practicing this while you're driving. I can just see this now. Someone passes out and they crash, and then they mention my name. Dr. Berg told me to hold my breath while I was driving. Well, I'm telling you right now, don't do this while you're driving, okay? Now, there are several other things you can do to increase this CO2 tolerance. And I'm going to put a link down of a website that will give you a lot more information about this. But I just wanted to give you the concept, some basic things that you can start doing. If you get an oximeter, now you can actually have some feedback, and you can do your own testing on yourself to see what works. And then you can prove it to yourself. But anyway, there's some great information on this topic relating to panic attacks and asthma. And if you haven't seen my video on that, I put it up right here. Check it out.
And here are some laser pointers. As you can see, very reasonably priced. That one does a 10-mile red laser pen. Cat pointer, 1 MW, yeah, and the one below, 349, it's not bad at all. The one below it, 389, 50 miles laser pointer. And that's pretty good. And the one below it, another 50 miles laser pointer. Now, whatever you do, don't buy one of those dark laser pointers and point them at the cameras, because it could cause damage to the camera lens and it might not be able to take any photos. So whatever you do, don't get a laser pointer and point them at them cameras. Okay? You've been warned. Now don't do that. Did you know eating just 2 bananas daily reduces blood pressure, boosts brain power, prevents anemia, strengthens the bones, helps to quit smoking, reduces depression and gives energy? Well, clearly if it boosts brain power, no one in Parliament ever eats bananas. If you like slightly bigger boys to suck your tongue too, then Michael and I... Isn't it ironic that millions of people love movies that celebrate rebellion and underdogs who resist oppression, yet in the real world they obey rules without ever questioning authority? Vulnerable and can't afford your electricity bill? Then police will assist their partner agencies in a civil debt matter. New NASA director spotted swearing oath on Carl Sagan book instead of Bible. Means they're another Satanist. Why would you question the moon landings? Relative density. Your inability to grasp science is not a valid argument against it. The independent variable is density. Less dense than water floats. More dense than water sinks. Disproves gravity. The buoyant force comes from the pressure extended on the object by the fluid medium. The weight of the object, m/v density, force, when reacting acceleration to its surrounding medium, air, water, helium, F equals m times a. F equals m times a. Force, action, accumulation of density, mv, when reacting to its surrounding medium fluid. W equals F equals m xa. Gravity fails to exist in water.